Robin Perry Braun. Robin's gracefully accepted being on my radio show, and we had a chance to chat there. And I am very impressed with this woman, as I have been with Dr. Maluna and Rosie as well. But there are things about what you do that just really intrigue me. She helps people to release blocks, which is what she's going to talk about today, to having all that they desire, and ultimately to live in a place of peace and joy. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could live in that place? And we won't go why we can't right now. She is an ordained minister as well as a certified integrated life process practitioner. Say that 3 times fast. Okay. Has a book, and I love the name of this book, A Believer's Guide in the Law of Attraction, 30 Days to Peace and Joy. For those of us who've always wondered why the law of attraction doesn't work, maybe it's that 30 days to peace and joy. Plus, there was something else that you're serious about educating Christians on the biblical truths in quantum physics. Again, a very, very thoughtful woman who has just this really broad range of interests, who's going to talk to us about releasing blocks so that we can be the very best that we want to be, and that we can serve our clients in the way that they need to be served, fully, completely, in joy and in peace. So Robin, welcome to our stage.
Thanks. I'm going to try to make my personal story a little brief, but I do want to share from my heart because I have a lot of content I'm trying to deliver in a short period. And of course, in my books, I review this content, so hopefully you'll get them. So when I was 21, which was 32 years ago, if you want to do the math real quick, and I went into a treatment center for an eating disorder. And in there, one of the first things I realized was this is what I was called to do. I was called to be a counselor. I was called to be a healer of the soul. And so I don't necessarily recommend paying for treatment centers for eating disorders. I don't know that my parents got their money's worth. But it did set me on a journey of personal healing. And I began to pursue that journey. I got a degree in psychology. And one of the things I quickly realized was that this was a lifelong journey, that I wasn't going to get over this quickly. And the second thing I realized was that I could not take people where I had not gone, or I would be a fraud. And I couldn't do that. So I began to pursue my own healing passionately and realized that this was a lifestyle. And I preach that. We don't ever arrive. We're always in transformation. We're always in process. So I began that journey and have continued that now for 30 years. Along the way, I had chronic fatigue, so I got into alternative medicine with nutrition and all these other things. So God has strategically placed all these things in my life. I then got married and happened to find out I was married to a sex addict who I thought was a recovered sex addict. And much to my surprise, that was not going to go the way I thought. But even in that journey, I had a tremendous amount of healing, and I became passionate about finding healing techniques and modalities that actually worked. Because, see, I did get free from an eating disorder, and if any of you don't know, that is one of the hardest things to really get free from, because you have to eat, and we're surrounded by food every day, and it's an obsessive bondage. And so I knew that we weren't broken. We're not broken. That the recovery rate in addiction is so low, and it doesn't have to be. We're missing something. God's not broken. The problem's on our end. We're missing something. So my journey has been about finding tools that actually work to bring transformation. So fast forward, I moved to Dallas in 2010 after a divorce, finally, and a bankruptcy. And I realized in this period in my life that all this inner healing I'd done for 30 years, I still had these beliefs in my subconscious that just shouldn't have been. I mean, actually, my childhood was pretty good, so I couldn't believe I still believed these things. And so I began to become open to this idea of the subconscious. And parallel to that, I began to understand these principles of quantum physics, which I'm going to talk about in just a minute. But so what I want to say is that I have a very successful holistic practice in Dallas. I do not advertise. It's all word of mouth. That the tools that I've found and integrated over 30 years in this journey actually really work. And so that's why I get the feedback I do. I don't take credit for it. I use applied kinesiology, which is muscle testing, which means I don't really have to be an expert on anything because your subconscious is the expert. I just am really good at asking it the right questions, yes and no questions. And I've learned how to release energy, and it is my calling and it is my passion. I've written 3 books. The first one is called A Believer's Guide to the Law of Attraction, a scriptural map for transformation and manifesting God's destiny in your life, which was my goal to tell Christians that the law of attraction principles really work and to stop throwing the baby out with the bathwater because they're in the Bible. And my second book, 30 Days to Peace and Joy, was written because this book truly is an elephant, and my goal was to actually have people apply these principles to their life. And this was so much was that I broke it down into 30 principles that included journaling and how to apply these to themselves. And it does take more than 30 days. It's just written into 30 pieces. And then my third book I wrote, Journey Through the Storm, is Overcoming the Pain of Your Husband's Porn and Sex Addiction. And this is a compilation of women's stories who are in a support group that I led, of their journeys and principles about how to cope with being married to somebody who has a porn or sex addiction. Statistically speaking, 65% of American men look at porn at least once a month. Speaking of a couple of statistics, my mom died of cancer in 1997. My father died a year later of a disease and a broken heart, both smoking related, and they did not do anything alternative, and they did not get well. They both died. Currently in America, 50% of the population are at risk for cancer. 50%. Look around this room, look at the person next to you. 1 out of the 2 of you is likely to get cancer in your lifetime. We don't talk about that statistic. America is the most addicted, depressed, anxious, obese, and medicated country in the world. We're not doing something right. My passion is to educate people how to change that, because we can change that, we can control that, we're not victims, okay? So that's really why I'm passionate about what I do, is I want to see people get well and stay well, and I believe they can. I'm on a weekly radio show. I'm a guest expert on a One Life Radio. It's called One Life Radio. It's an iHeartRadio show, and it has more than a 70 million listener viewership across the country. And I get to speak on psychology topics as well as understanding things from an energy standpoint. I have a certified modality in what I do. I've created a certification program, so currently I'm traveling around the U.S. training people to do what I do in a 3-day process, because I have a lot of cheat sheets and I do a lot of coaching afterwards, and so I'm getting to reproduce myself. I have 4 beautiful girls. One of them still lives at home, and I think that's it. But what I want to say is that I've done all that in the past 5 years. And the reason I'm sharing that, other than we're here to shine, is that I knew 30 years ago that I had something great within me. I knew I had these things within me, but it seemed like I would always reach a glass ceiling. I just couldn't get past it. I tried so many things and failed that I just stopped trying to self-promote. They just seemed to not work. And so what I was shown was there's some principles of quantum physics and the subconscious that can create blocks in our life. And that's what I want to talk about now for a minute. So I'm going to talk about quantum physics. Now, before your eyes glaze over, I can remember being in 11th grade and taking physics, and we had what we called the Bedrisky syndrome. So Bedrisky was the teacher, and every time we walked into physics and they flipped the lights out and they turned the movie on, no matter how hard you tried, no matter how much sleep you had or how much coffee you had, you were going to fall asleep. Okay, so in efforts to not recreate the Bedrisky syndrome, I'm going to keep these principles of quantum physics very basic and simple and use some visual aids so that hopefully I won't lose you, you won't glaze over, and you won't fall asleep on me. Okay, so first of all, we are made up of atoms. Everything in the universe is atoms. You and I are atoms. These books are atoms. This clock is atoms. Everything in this room is made up of atoms, and the air and the space between us is all made up of atoms. So in essence, everything at its core is made up of energy. Okay, our bones are made up of energy. Our heart is made up of energy. That food, everything you drink, everything is made up of energy at its core. So a couple principles about energy. One is that all energy vibrates, and it has a measurable frequency. Okay, what is a radio station? 94.9 megahertz. Okay, that's a frequency, that's a vibration. The blind woman who could hear colors is because all color vibrates at a frequency, and so she could sense and feel the frequency. We are communicating 24/7 energetically. We're just not aware of it. The reason we're not aware of it is that we are icebergs, okay? We are only maybe 5% aware of what's going on at any one time. The rest of it is in our subconscious, and we are completely oblivious to it, but we are measuring it and we are registering it, okay? We use words like, I got a bad vibe from that person. Well, you actually did, okay? Some of us have stronger intuitions than others and are more connected. Some of us are more connected to what we call our inner physician. We know when things are wrong with us. We know when things are bad for us. We know when things are good for us. But the truth is that we are supercomputers. We actually kind of know everything. We just don't have access to it. And our subconscious is actually 30,000 times more powerful than our conscious mind. But most of the time we don't have access to it. So why does this matter? So I'm going to give you some examples from some real life clients because specifically I want to talk about blocks to success. So what are our thoughts made up of? Energy. They're made up of energy. Our thoughts affect us internally, and they're actually projected out there, and they're a measurable frequency that vibrates, and it's being sent out. Okay, it's registrable. So technically we can read each other's thoughts. We just don't know what we're reading. What about our emotions? What are they made up of? Energy. Okay, great. So everything's made up of energy. Now we have a little saying in psychology that says, what fires together wires together. And that's actually the way your brain is made. Okay, that's neuroscience. When certain things happen in conjunction with each other, they actually form neural pathways together. So what fires together wires together. So I'm going to talk about that principle from an energy standpoint. And let me just give an example. I'm in kindergarten. My first day of my life has been perfect. I go outside to recess, and at recess the kids make fun of me. What emotion do you think I would be feeling? Sad or rejection, maybe scared. This has never happened to me. So these two things are firing. The emotion of rejection and fear, and the event of these kids making fun of me. Now, let's say the teacher comes over and says, hey, what's going on? And I start to cry, and she says, oh, boys and girls, we don't do things like that. That's not nice. Say you're sorry. So she says, they say they're sorry, and everything's fine, and we're friends. So in that moment, I would get comforted for my feeling. I would get acknowledged, and I would get an apology. And if that were to have happened in life, then these emotions would have been processed and released. But that rarely happens, okay? And so what happens is that these two things fired together. I go home after school and I say, Mom, this happened to me. And she says, well, don't worry about it. You're just going to have to get a thicker skin. So I go back to school the next day and it happens again. So now I'm starting to think, what's wrong with me? These kids are making fun of me. Okay, so now this is starting to wire. I'm giving this meaning. So I'm believing something's wrong with me because they're making fun of me and not other kids. Our thoughts are electrical in nature. Our emotions are magnetic in nature. When we put them together, we create an electromagnetic force, okay? One of the other principles about frequency and energy is like attracts like. So in a nutshell, whatever beliefs I create in my subconscious, I will attract something like that, and it will get reinforced. Okay, so for time's sake, I'm going to fast forward to give you some examples and how this matters. So I have a client who is a public speaker, and has been very wealthy many times in her life. Every time she made a lot of money, she got betrayed, stolen from, something devastated happened. So money wired with some really strong negative emotions. And her belief became, subconsciously, every time I'm wealthy, it feels really bad, okay? Now this happened to her a couple of times. So she's coming to me because she wants to be wealthy again. Do you think she really wants to be wealthy? No. Because these are strong, and it's actually repelling wealth because it's not what she really wants, okay? So she's not getting that. So in my practice, I have techniques where I can dismantle the emotion from the belief, create a new belief, add a new positive emotion in, and we can create something different. Same person, a lot of her speaking had gone down, and one of the things that had come up in our practice using muscle testing was that a lot of the very famous public speakers she knew were all crooks. They were manipulators. They knew they could control and manipulate people. These are like motivational speakers type, you know. And she didn't like them. They just weren't good people. They weren't good guys. So do you think she really wanted to be a public speaker? No, because she didn't want to be like them. Okay, so her belief was to be a successful public speaker, I have to be manipulative and be a fraud, okay? So we do this all day long, all throughout our life. We have a bowl full of us inside of us of these beliefs. And these beliefs were glued in with strong emotions. I have another client who is a 2-time Hall of Famer public speaker whose business had declined. And as we started working together, he had a ton of these from his personal life. So when he got up on stage, do you think his frequency was vibrating very high? No, because he had so much stress on him and so many negative things that he had unresolved. So if we can identify what some of these negative beliefs are, but we have to find the emotions that we attach to them. What were the events that caused these beliefs? Because until we disconnect these, we don't really want what we think we want. All we really want is what? All we really want is this. This is what we were wired for. This is what we were designed for. This is all any human being really wants, is to feel this. We think this will bring us peace and joy, or this will bring us peace and joy, or this will. But this is all we really want. So if our subconscious says, that brought me betrayal, rejection, all that, I'm not doing that, we don't really want it. We're not going to attract it. Or if we believe that I'm not good enough to have that, or if I get that success, I'll lose my marriage, or if my family won't like me, or people won't like me. I had a client in Norway, which happens to be a socialist country, who wanted to succeed financially more than he was, and he kept making these bad investments. But the events that kept coming up in our process was that every time he excelled, he felt rejection. So he didn't really want to excel because he wanted to be loved and accepted, which we all want, okay? So I challenge you to sit and ask your subconscious, if you can, what are my truths versus what I think I want? Because remember, your subconscious is 30,000 times more powerful than your conscious. You can't change this with this. We have to go in and find this and release it. I know that all of y'all in here were designed to be great. You have greatness in you. I knew for 20-something years I had greatness within me, and I didn't know how to get there. And in the past 5 years, I've just seen thing after thing open up to where everything my heart desires and has desired is manifested. At the end of the day, I get to change people's lives. Right now, I'm doing a lot of training, certified practitioners, so I'm getting to reproduce myself and then mentor those people. And some of these people are powerful healers that just needed a toolbox as comprehensive as the one I've developed. So I'm getting to do everything I love and love everything I do, but the key is that now I also know how to continue to do that the rest of my life and truly manifest everything my heart desires. Thank you so much, and I truly, out of my heart, believe that everybody in here is called to be great. It's not a competition, it's a team. Thank you.
Are you a speaker looking to reach more people with your message? You have a global vision that you want to touch the world and make a global difference. If so, I have an amazing opportunity for you. It's called the Speaker Talent Search. Again, that's the speakertalentsearch.com. You'll find all the details, but here are the highlights. With one application process, you get clarity on your message. You get to fine-tune how you want to reach the world. Then you'll have everything ready in one place for the opportunities when they come. Second, we select you as a finalist. You get to come in and audition with a 7-minute audition, open up the door to hundreds of speaking opportunities. I hope you lean in. I hope you say yes. We would love to hear your message. Help you touch the world powerfully. Again, that's the speakertalentsearch.com. We look forward to hearing your powerful message.